Guys, I did a project. The client was great, but my God, was this a hard project. Probably the most difficult project I have done in my life. I had to hire a developer. I had to contact CrocoBlock in order to finish this project. But it is done now. It works. It's live. So in this episode, I want to show you the project, why this was so challenging, what I charged, and of course what I learned. But spoiler alert, as you can already see, this is not the most visually exciting project I have ever done. It was more like a technical project, so do not expect to see amazing cool designs. Not every project is like that. That's only a reality that exists on social media, but not in real life, as you probably know if you do client projects yourself. So let's get this story started by talking about the design phase. So this project, according to Google AI, is a European management development company. It's non-profit. It's not huge, but it's definitely also not small. They have been around for a while. There's already multiple things going on, and they needed a revamp, a redesign of their events website. And when projects start like this, it's already a little bit more challenging than starting completely from blank. Because you have to work with what they already have. And so their old website, I tried to search for it on Wayback Machine. It was something like this. It was an event website, and I cannot really see the previous design anymore, but they basically used a events plugin, this plugin, to display a list of their events. So this is one of these WordPress plugins that just gives you a lot of features for a specific needs. And in this case, event management. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this plugin, but this is what they had. You get all kinds of options in the backend, but it is limited. You cannot just do whatever you want because this plugin decides what features you have. And so when companies get bigger and they get specific demands, most of the times these plugins, they become too limiting for them, and then they start to look outside of these plugins. And so they were watching videos on YouTube and they found me. And they were like, hey, this guy builds a lot of custom stuff, and he talks about CrocoBlock. And then they started doing research themselves, because this is the case in bigger companies. They already have people internally that try things themselves. They make a few designs, they mess around with WordPress, and especially in the time we live in right now, where everybody can just buy their own license and mess around with the software, many companies do more things internally, but they don't always have all the skills in-house, and then they hire an external person like me. So they already knew about Elementor, about Jet Engine, there was a technical person in there, and they even already started making a redesign of their current event website, again, which I unfortunately don't have a screenshot from, but they made a redesign themselves in Figma. So you can see this is not a super beginner kind of company. They already made an effort in this, but they got a little bit stuck. And not necessarily on the design, because they were quite happy with this, but more on the technical side. So they already knew about Elementor CrocoBlock, they already tried the design, and whatever the reason was, whether they don't have the time for it or couldn't figure it out, they came to me. And then I said, okay, that's an interesting project for sure. I thought it would be doable, but I did underestimate it, to be honest. So we planned our first discovery call. We went through the first design. I was like, okay, I think we need a redesign of what they did right here, because this design doesn't feel complete and it also feels a little bit overwhelming. So I started already placing some comments on a lot of these things. And I basically told them like, hey, I can do this project, but I do want to make a redesign of this because I always want to deliver quality. They said, yes, sure. But then in that first conversation, that's why having calls with your clients is so important, I discovered that it's actually a little bit more complex than what I thought, because they also, for example, have tabs within the single post template, which is already inside of a tabs, which then has dynamic data in it. And there were more things, for example, a speaker list, but they wanted a custom post type for the speaker list so that they could easily manage that and not manage it per event. Otherwise, it will become too hard for them to manage because they have 1300 speakers, which I completely understood. They have lots of custom fields. For example, all of these things needed to be adjustable. They have another custom post type which needed to be linked, which also has categories in it. So we're inside of a tab, then this is a post from another custom post type within a category. So I was like, wait, now I'm not exactly sure if this is all possible with CrocoBlock, so I want some budget to see if this is actually possible. They said, yes, okay. So we already had the paid discovery call, and then I got some budget to do some research. And this is all to protect myself and the client, because I don't want to accept a project where I'm not really sure if it's possible, apart from the redesign, right? But just technically. And for the client, it's also better that they know that I am sure that it's possible before I just accept a project. Because I believe that you should not accept projects if you have no idea if it's possible. And I know that many people on the internet say, well, you just accept it, you will figure it out later. And I understand, it's like motivational and stuff, but when you're dealing with real clients and they put their money in you, I think you should be a little bit more sure of yourself to make sure that you're not wasting your time and the client's time. So that's why I'm a fan of paid discovery calls, and then also sometimes asking for research budget before we even have an agreement. Okay, so that's what happened. So I did some testing with Jet Engine. I just made a quick staging site. I tried to put tabs inside of tabs, repeaters. I just made a quick thing. And then I came back to them and I said like, okay, this is possible. Let's do it. I knew it would be challenging, but I had the confidence to figure it out. And so I wanted to redesign this. I thought there was too much going on and it takes too much brain power to get to the information. And that's a problem for these kinds of websites, which is mainly informational. You need to make sure that the viewer gets to the information that they want without being overwhelmed. And so I started making a redesign. So I started shuffling things around, adding some colors, trying to stay within their brand, while also trying to make it a little bit more modern. And after a few hours, I ended up with this. Yeah, let's now put them next to each other because I think that's interesting to take a look at. So here, first of all, you can see that I took the sub menu and the menu and I combined it in just two big blocks. And maybe that's not the most exciting, but for an information website like this, I think it's easier to scan. Okay, then the next big difference is that I rearranged some things. So first you have the image, then the category, which in this design is over here, the subheading, and then some more information, which they had over here. So here your eye will go like this. And here it just goes from top to bottom into more and more detail. But another reason why I took the tabs and moved it up is because I figured out that it was not possible to put the tabs down and put something above it. Because if you use tabs, the content will always be aligned at the top. And you cannot really put something here inside of the Jet Tabs widget from CrocoBlock. And so when I moved these tabs up, I realized that it would be better to integrate this into here. And then I ended up with a design like this. All of the information is still here. This is where the tabs are, and this is the information about the event. I tried to stay within their brand. I tried to add their pattern to the background. I added some outline icons because these icons are pretty heavy, and on their current website they also use outline icons. So I presented this to them. There was some feedback about the colors of the fonts, the typography, but they especially wanted a different menu. So I tested with some different color combinations. But I didn't really want to go for a light background because a soft background makes it easier to read the text. So you can see a lot of experiments here with the feedback. They wanted to add some branding elements, so maybe like a circle, but I wasn't really a fan of that because it's hard to scale up. So you can see I tried a few different things. And then I ended up with a menu like this because I wanted the events menu to feel like it's part of the main website. So in this design, it's really separate. And another thing that I changed is that the top header image, the text and the basic information is always visible, and the tabs start from here, which makes more sense because the information in the tabs is not the main information right here. It is more in-depth information that's always connected to the main event. So if we would have chosen this design and you would click on another tab, then all of this information would be switched out. So that's an interesting detail about the design. Again, as you can see, this is not about cool visuals. This is just about UX design. And then one last thing, which I also thought was interesting. They wanted something that looked a little bit more clickable because many people that use this website would be a little bit older. So I switched out the bubbles from here into the actual tabs. They like that more. I tried a few different styles because I was not really happy with the design, but eventually they were happy with it. So yeah, I feel like sometimes you have to give up the cool design stuff for something more practical. So that was challenging, but the client's goal is more important than my own desires. It just needs to be usable and okay looking. So yeah, that is what this was. So let's put them next to each other. We went from this design to this design. I think a lot cleaner and easier to scan for this much information. And then at the bottom, I also redesigned two parts. So here you can see that they designed some kind of testimonial section and related events. And I thought that we could also make that a little bit more in style. So I redesigned that to this very simple, clean. So here you can see those two cars next to each other. This is what they designed, and then I came up with this. The sizes are a little bit out of balance here. This one was bigger. But what's interesting here is the hierarchy. So in this loop item, the icons attract all of the attention because they are super heavy and the title is actually smaller than the information in it. So I balance it out by making the icons smaller, outline, the title bigger, and then you get a more balanced view. And the category label eventually also ended up in the design. And here you can see one more comparison for the speakers page. So this is what they had, white on white and then with the shadows. And I redesigned it to this, a little bit cleaner and easier to scan. And I just want to say one last thing, and that is, even though I did test out a lot of things, I didn't send all of these things to the client. There were actually 3 rounds, as you can see in my videos over here. We have redesign 1, 2 and 3. So after 3 times we ended up with the design that we wanted, and then the development started. And for the people that are in my design course, you guys know that I do record videos for my clients so that we don't have to have meetings for everything, because I think that process is more efficient. Let's talk about development now. So why was this so hard? The design was challenging because I couldn't go too modern. I had to stay within the brand that they already had. But development, that's where the real challenge started. And again, this is not because of the client, it's just a difficult project. So let me show you the inside. So each event has, of course, their own post. And of course, I used Jet Engine post types for that. And they needed a lot of custom fields, like a lot. So many that I had to divide them into tabs so that it would not be too much information. This is one of the nice features that you have with Jet Engine, where you can categorize custom fields in tabs so that on the front end it shows up like this, a lot easier for the client. And I also had to create other custom post types because they didn't only have events, but also speakers, like I said, partners, contact, and they all had to be connected to each other because they wanted to connect speakers to events. So I built that with relationships inside of Jet Engine so that from the comfort of the event page, they could just go right here and just click on connect a speaker and then just add another speaker to this post, which would then show up here at the front end, here at the bottom. But because I build it with relationships, they can also connect this speaker to another event, making it a very smart system. So here we have the speakers post type, and there are all the speakers. As you can see, very easy to manage, just some custom fields, an image, and then also a connection back to the event. So they can even connect events to specific speakers from here. And this can be done with relationships. So you connect custom post types to each other. So here you can see it, speakers to events. which has a many-to-many relationship, so you can basically connect them from both sides. And then you also have to create a query to make sure that you can display that list of speakers inside of your custom post type. So here you can see inside of the post type, that is how that is connected. Not easy, as you can see, and I had to figure out how this works because this is a little bit more complex than with ACF. Then of course I had to make templates for all of the tabs inside here. So you can see here we're in the custom post type. If you hover, there are so many templates connected to this single post type. All of the tabs, also different loop items within those tabs. This already was kind of hard because it's very easy to lose focus when things get so big and complex. And there were also tabs within tabs, which has dynamic content, which is based on a repeater. You can see how complex this is. And then, for example, the contact list is also connected to a custom post type, contact, for these specific people, but then they had to have categories for each speaker. So then I had to use another trick in order to connect them so that they could be categorized instead of the normal relationships over here. Oh my god, it took me so much time to figure all of that stuff out, and it was all possible with CrocoBlock, but it became really complex, and especially figuring out how to set up the dynamic visibility with CrocoBlock, that was not easy. Look at this. Oh my god. Of course, I first tried myself, but when I really couldn't figure it out, then I contacted CrocoBlock, and CrocoBlock was amazing. They helped me, so big shout outs to CrocoBlock for helping me with that project, because this was above my skill level. And like I said, I also had to hire an external developer because there were some things which were very hard. So for example, upcoming events. So I needed a way to filter these events on the homepage, which is not just a simple sorting feature because the events that would be in the past should automatically hide from the homepage. And then the client said, well, actually the events that are happening today in all time zones should still be visible, but the events before that should be hidden, which was so hard. We needed custom calculations and needed to figure all of this out, and that was not even enough, so my developer had to make a custom plugin in order to add the functionality that we needed. So the result, it is here, it works, finally. Everything is dynamically visible, so if there's no data inside of each field, then it also adds the title, and if there's no data inside of all of them, then it also hides the tab. Yes, the repeaters are built in, the speakers are connected, partners, contact. There's a bar here at the bottom that only shows up when there's actually a link in the register. They can easily add testimonials. The upcoming events work, it is fully responsive. So yeah, I did deliver. So what did I learn? Well, first thing that I want to say is that I learned that for these kinds of projects, I should simply have more time. And I underestimated it. When I saw the design, I was like, yeah, it's doable, it's not that hard. But my gut feeling already said that this was gonna be hard, which I should have trusted, because back then I didn't really have enough time, and so I couldn't really give the client a very nice experience because there were many delays. And they were very understanding because they know I'm also doing a lot of stuff on YouTube, but it was just too much, and so I had to disappoint them with delays. I had to disappoint you guys with delays, because of course this project also eat away my time, and I also had to disappoint myself. And so I decided to not do these kinds of complex projects anymore if I don't get the help from other people. So now I'm talking to some people that can maybe help me with some client projects. And then you might say, well, Rino, why do you even do client projects still? Well, I don't do these kinds of projects for the money. I do it because I want to stay close to the craft. I think that will make the teachings better. Instead of just talking about how to make websites, I actually do it sometimes, but this was too much, and so I did learn a lesson there. A second thing that I realized is that CrocoBlock and especially Jet Engine is still the king when it comes to dynamic content. There is no plugin that can do what this plugin can do. Yes, it's hard, but great power comes with great responsibility, right? It is not easy to figure all of this out. And yes, I know Elementor has added a lot of features inside of Elementor Pro that CrocoBlock has, but this would have absolutely not been possible just with Elementor. So yeah, again, huge shout out to CrocoBlock. And if you're thinking about building a complex project like that and you want to get CrocoBlock, then I do have a 10% discount code still. Many people have used that already. I recommend the freelance lifetime plan because you get 500 websites for one-time price, which you can just charge to the client for a complex project like this. Then you can use it forever. So please use my link and use that 10% discount code. If you want to use CrocoBlock, you can always find that link over here. Use this exact link, otherwise it doesn't work. Because the commissions that I get are a huge part of why I can make these free videos. So yeah, CrocoBlock is still the king when it comes to dynamic content. Then how much did I earn? Well, it was somewhere between 10 and 15. I don't have to say the exact price. I don't really want to say that. Probably the client also doesn't like that, but there were two phases. First phase was between 5 and 10, and then the project got bigger, and so I had to ask for more money. Again, client was very flexible, but that's always a bit tricky, of course, when projects get bigger than what you expected. So definitely follow your gut feeling if you're working with a client, or just ask for payment up front, because unfortunately, these kinds of projects go wrong all the time. Because people cannot always deliver what the client wants because it's so complex, and then the client says, well, then you don't get money. And that's not a situation you want to be in, so be smart with that. So yeah, I hope that was interesting to watch. It was very deep. Again, not the most exciting project in terms of design, but definitely very challenging on the development side. A little bit too much for me, but I learned so much. So I hope that you got some value from this video, and for my own interest, if you guys want to share one of your difficult, hard projects in the comments, and that would be very interesting. We can always learn from each other. And then I hope to see you in my next video.